Hello, guys. Welcome to our Alteryx Fireside Chat. We're here once again. Every month, we're here to talk a little bit more about Alteryx, have this fun conversation with you guys. And today, we're missing Andrew Kim because he recently became a father, right, Fernando?
Yeah, great
He's
news,
probably
right?
enjoying his baby right now, but he'll definitely be back and in the next months. So we're here today, and we would like to open with a fun question, as we always do. And the question would be to you, Fernando. First, if animals could talk, which one would be the funniest for you?
Um, I think that there are a lot of funny ones there, but I would think that the hamster would be the funniest one. Actually, I would think. Actually, I don't think hamsters thinks about a lot of stuff. So I think it's like Homer Simpson. Like, so he's like, do 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 do. I'm eating all my food here, and then sometimes, and then he start thinking, oh, maybe I'm gonna run my wheel, and then oh, my food is delicious, and that's basically it. So there's not a lot of things happening to a hamster, but I think that's exactly as Homer Simpson would say. And how about
And
yourself?
it's a really small animal, right? So it would
Yeah,
be kind
exactly.
of cute too, right? To see a hamster talking.
Yeah, I'm not really being really fair to a hamster, saying that he's like Homer Simpson, but that's how I picture. I had two previous when I was really young, but in that's what I actually thought about then. They were thinking about a lot of things.
I don't know. I think mine would be a snake. But I don't know. I think it would be funny because I don't even know how a snake would talk, like with, with the way they look like. But yeah, but they're very silent. I don't know. I think it would be funny to see a snake talking at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's like very direct, very aggressive to others, right? So, something
Yeah.
something like that, or a passive aggressive, or complaining about everything that others were saying, or something around that. So that's actually a good thing to know about dogs, cats. There are a lot of things to think about those, right?
Yeah, and they're good at hunting because they're really quiet, right? If they talk, I think I don't know. I don't even know if they would survive.
Yeah, exactly. But that's great. That's a great idea to be a
Nice,
snake.
nice, cool, Fernando. So we're here today. We want to present to you guys 10 tips and tricks from Alteryx Designer, and we selected some good ones. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. But I think it's always good, right, Fernando, to talk a little bit more about those cool things that you do. I mean, every time I see a session like that, I always learn something new. It's incredible because Alteryx has all those kinds of Easter eggs that you can find when dealing with the tool. So, would you like to start off with yours, with
Yeah,
your
yeah,
first
yeah.
tip of the day?
Yeah, that's great actually. Yeah, one that's tips and tricks is really great. Even I think we are working with Alteryx for more than 5 years, and even now we always come across, since we are a lot of in the community answer a lot of questions. Always we come across with something that we had no idea and was there since the beginning, right? So let me start with one here that I discovered. I think was in the last year. It's let me share my screen here. So it's a silly one. I'm not sure if you all think about this is really something that you would use, but it's how for you to include symbols using Alteryx. So I have a few examples here. So we have a lot of different ones. I'm using actually a function called char from int. And the idea here is that I need to pass an integer. And then if I look in my browser here, I'm gonna see a lot of symbols here. So the whole idea is that if you are building something, some charts or something related uh, to analyzing your data, analyzing your rows, and you want to provide some, oh, the sales is increasing or anything like that, you can start using this. But as you can see here, is not that great. It's not that easy for you to look actually, but of course we can make that prettier. So if you start using actually the table tool, you'll be able to start using, for example, emojis. Look how great it is. This is. So you have a lot of different ones. You can start building. I think it's more fun than actually something that you would use in your report. But if you want to start building a fun report or anything like that, it's always great for you to know actually that can use this kind of symbols for you to leverage your report to make that more pretty, to make that more fun, or anything related to that. But did you know about that, Thales?
Yeah, I didn't know like you could actually add emojis and stuff, but I did know like you could use that char for mint function. Actually, there's one tip that I'm gonna talk about that kind of uses that. But
That's
it's
great.
it's very cool, very cool. I imagine like well, especially those people who like to send those emails with all those like new cool emojis and stuff.
Yeah,
uh,
now we are actually we tend to use that to be more friendly. I know that a
mhm.
lot of people are using that in emails. I always use as well to be more friendly or to actually when I want to ask something that I really want to get, then I use an emoji to get that to manipulate the person, right?
Don't say like that, Fernando.
But how about yours? Do you have one?
Yeah.
Or-
Yes, I am gonna show you here. Let me switch to my screen now. Yeah, I'm gonna show you guys a really nice tip. I don't know like how you guys deal with that, but basically I struggled a lot with the cross tab tool because when you change when you use the cross tab tool, you basically the field order gets all messed up because it gets in an alphabetical order, right? So you have your rows in an order, and then when you use the cross tab to basically like do a pivot table or something, it basically messes up your order, right? And also you get like those weird characters. In your field names, right? So instead of having like the regular field name, you get like all those underscores in your field names with the cross tab too, right? So I have a use case that I would like to present really quick here. So for example, I wanted to do some analysis on some movies. So I got that a Kaggle data set where I can see the IMDb movies, right? And I filtered by date. So I wanted to see like all the movies in 2010, and that of course they were produced in the U.S. and they were in English, right? So what if I, for example, I wanted to see like I wanted to sort, right, and get the duration of these movies, the length of these movies in an ascending order, right? So I would run this just to check, and I would have a data set like this, right? So I can see like the duration of the movies in an ascending order. And what if, for example, I don't want to see that in rows, right? I want to see that in columns. I want to see every movie in a column, maybe for presentation reasons, or maybe that's how you want to merge that data with another data set or something like that, right? So I have a list of what 462 movies right here, right? So I'll have 462 fields if I wanted to pivot that table, right? So if I do that, if I use like just the cross tab tool, and I wanted to keep my sorting order, like for example, my first field would be the Enigma movie, right? Which is like 42 minutes long, right? If I do the cross tab tool right here, and I just do like original title as my column, and then duration as my value, right? And use concatenate. I have one single, one unique movie per row, so I don't have to worry about concatenating values, but I have to check this, otherwise the cross tab would complain, right? And I'm not going to group by any value. So if I do this, look what I get, right? I get something like this. So my data set was reordered. It's not more in the duration order that I decided here. It's now in an alphabetical order where I can see like it's starting with the numbers and then with A, and it goes all the way to Z, right? And it's not in the duration order that I want. So I wanted like to see the Enigma field and the first field here. And also I got all these underscores, right? So the name of the movie is 10 years later. So it added underscores in the spaces. Because what the crosstab tool does is basically replaces every non-word character, let's say, per an underscore, right? So how do I fix this problem? I mean, there's a lot of ways of approaching that, but I think a really easy and dynamic way would be to do something like this. So let me delete that, right? And I'm gonna add a record ID tool here. A record ID tool, for those who don't know, it basically will add an ID at the beginning of the data set, right, for each row. So it basically will give like a kind of an order, right, to your data set. First row, 1, 2, 3, and so on, right? So I add this record ID tool, and what I do here, I add a formula tool, and I'm gonna basically create a column which will basically drive my crosstab tool, right? So I would say like something like ordered movies or whatever. This column is not going to show up in my final data set, right? So I would do what? I would do the record ID, and I would add an underscore just here just to keep like the order, the logic in the name of the field, right? And I would add the field name, which would be original title, right? And then here I have to just change the record ID to string, so I can concatenate all of this. So I would have something. I would have a field like this, like right, like in the preview, you can see here the first row, which is for the Enigma movie. I would have 1 underscore Enigma, right? So if I run this, I can see now I have something in my data set like this: 1 Enigma, 2, and then I have an order. So that's how I order, right? So if I were to use the crosstab tool now, and I would use the column that I created, order movies, and use the duration column as my value again, use the concatenate method again. If I do that and I run my workflow, I then have the order that I wanted, right? So I don't have to use a select tool to order that manually. Imagine ordering like 460 fields, right? So now I have my duration order correctly in a field order by a field that I decided, just using that trick of the record ID too. But still, I do have like all these underscores. I have the record ID inserted, so it doesn't look really good, right, in my presentation. So what I can do now is I can use a dynamic rename tool. And the beauty of this tool is that you can just basically use that option of take field names from a specific sequence of rows, right? So I use that option, and what I do here, I'm gonna just add this right here because it was like my data set looked like, right? It had my field names in rows. So I know I already ordered the fields. So if I want to get back to what the fields were named like, I just can use that same order that I use here, right? Because I can use a positional rename. So I just use a positional rename. I use a new field of the movie as my original title because I want to keep it as it was, right? And then when I run this again, I have my field names correctly and with all the characters as expected. So I don't have to do anything weird like replace those underscores with something with a formula tool or even rename them with the select tool. I just grab them as they were before going into the crosstab tool and with their original formatting and with their original characters, even if they have no word characters, right? So that's I think that's a really useful question if you're using the crosstab tool, that you can use a combo of the record ID and the dynamic rename tool to just basically order your data set and basically get the correct field names without having to use all those formulas to replace the underscores that the tool creates. Okay. So yeah, that's my tip. It was a little long tip, but I will pass it to you now, Fernando, so you can get your second tip. Did
Yeah.
you know that one?
Yeah, I knew that one. Actually, as a pre-sales, always working with customers, that basically one of the first things that they are always asking us is actually how to transform this. Actually, I have an Excel sheet. I'm using those dynamic tables, dynamic functionalities from
Mm-hmm.
Excel, and
Mm-hmm.
how to do that in Alteryx. And every time you do that, and start seeing those underscores there, they always start complaining about that because sometimes you need that in the specific format, and for those that doesn't have a lot of experience in Alteryx, they always going to be using the select tool for sorting, for renaming. And that's actually it's a great tip, but one thing that would be really better, actually better than that, is for Alteryx to make that a native, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a possibility to sort your columns the way you want, or the way you had in your previous data set, as well as keep the names as it is. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, maybe it's something that a lot of people might be asking, but I think that's maybe some characteristics bit inside of the tool that makes that really hard for you to improve that tool. But that's my ask. So Alteryx, please make that native, right? But one thing that actually Marcus was mentioning about the example that I sent, that I showed you, is that it's a way of you humanizing the report or the email, or to make more informal, right? So that's actually a good idea. I'm not sure if those that are the ones that running the 3 at 3 tomorrow will agree to that, to start including more and more information, more and more visualization, or because I'm more the more the better, the prettiest the better the dashboard. So you can say anything you like. I always prefer a dashboard that's prettier than the ones that are informative. So, but that's just me. But
Not just
let's
you, probably a lot of people, but it's
yeah, I
fine.
like the previous one. The previous ones actually, it doesn't say a lot about the shards, about the data, but always impress the most for those that have no idea what they are seeing, right? But that's a top for tomorrow's live session. But let's move forward here with my second tip. So the second one that I have here is for saving multiple sheets without a macro. We already talked about this specific topic. So you have a crew macro. So Microfiche developed one called parallel. Let me get that because I just forgot the name. So we have here, for example, so this one called parallel block until done. But what if you don't want to use macros? So actually, I'm a big fan of not using macros, of not adding more complexity for those users that had no idea what a macro is. So one problem that we have when we are trying to save multiple sheets inside one file only, let me check one more thing here before that. Okay. So we get this error. So a lot of you have seen it. So you are unable to save to a file if the file is already open. So the file is open here. You are trying to save to a different sheet in the same file. So it doesn't work. So how can we actually do that? So we have an option here. So, and for you to use that, you need to start understanding about the blocking tools. So Alteryx has some blocking tools. There are tools that actually need to read everything from its input anchors before processing and outputting the data here. So the whole idea for this part of the process is that at first I'm ordering the process. I'm using a block until done. So the second part of the process will only start after this one has finished, right? So the idea here is that I'm using this set of three tools For me, it's only to order. I'm not including anything from this data set here. So the whole idea for the append tool is that I'm using nothing from the source anchor, input anchor, but since this is a blocking tool and I need to actually read everything from both inputs before outputting, then this actually works. So if you look actually at the parallel block until done, is basically the same idea, but within a macro. But what I heard, and a lot of clients there, that for you to install macros, you need to go into a process, IT process, for you to start including those in your designer. So maybe it's better for you to start thinking about this. And of course, you can say that it's not pretty, it's ugly, you don't like, because the more outputs you need to create for the same Excel file, maybe you're gonna have a lot of trouble there. Or you're gonna be really, it's not gonna be pretty, right? So one thing that we can do to make that pretty, okay, so that's hidden. So actually, that's the only tip that I have for you. If you don't want that to be not as pretty or good looking as it should be, but it works. But there is one more step here. So actually we have one thing called the Dmp Engine now that's multi-threaded, so you can run workflows faster, uh, heavier data sets here. So if you are using the Dmp Engine, sometimes this does not work, right? So of course, sometimes it does work as of now, but sometimes it doesn't work. And how can you correct that if you are using the Dmp engine? And the answer to that is that I have no idea. I have no idea how to order those processes. Do you know, Thales, when
With
using Dmp
AMP,
engine? Yeah,
no.
yeah.
AMP
So
is
it,
still, I'm gonna be really honest, AMP is still a black box to me, but yeah, I know like they've been improving the engine since last year, but still doesn't, I still don't understand some of the processes with AMP.
yeah. So and if you guys have any idea how to order process when enabling the AMP engine, please let me know, because I really need that. And the same way, if you use the parallel block until done, it works basically the same way. It doesn't work if you have the AMP engine. And if you have heavier data sets and you want to run a bigger workflow or run in more with more flexibility or more speed, you will not be able to save like this, and or you may encounter some problems when saving both files, both sheets to the same file. But that's it. I'm not gonna ask you, Thales, if you knew that, because you already knew, of course. But
No, it's good to point out that there are some blocking tools in Alteryx. Like a lot of people don't understand sometimes the way that Alteryx processes the tools, but you got a good explanation there. Like with the join tools, the append tool, and that kind of stuff. Actually, it waits until every record is processed until it goes to the output, right? So basically, that's how you get that effect that you're looking for, and of like wait until like I process everything until I output to the second output, right? So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
pretty nice tip. Of course, I think that it would be better if Alteryx explained that a little bit better before we jump into Alteryx, right? Because
Right.
we end up learning that with the hardest use cases, but
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
fine. But okay, so let me go to my second tip, and that one is more like for a fun one. Not like, I don't know if you guys are gonna ever gonna use, but who knows, right? So I was thinking like it's really easy to use the generate rows tool to create a sequence, right? So if I run the generate rows tool like with the default configuration, I can see like it generates like a count to 1 to 10, and if I were to change that, for example, I could generate a count to 1 to 100, and so on, right? So it's a really cool tool for dates. It works really fine if you want to like generate a calendar or something in here. So it's a really nice tool. But what if, for example, I wanted to generate words, right? Or even like not generate words, but letters, for example, right? Sequence of letters and that kind of stuff. So I want to generate the alphabet, for example, right? With this tool, with a sequence. So uh, some people think that it's not possible because the loop expression it actually will, we will do some math to add up the sequences and control the loop expression. But something that you can use is something like similar to what Fernando did with the char from end expression, right? So if I were, for example, create a new field called the alphabet, so I'm creating the alphabet in this field, right? And of course, my initialization expression would be A because it starts with the letter A, right? So what would be my condition expression? I want to stop at Z, right? So I want to go from A to Z. So I would do something like this. I would go char to int, which is an expression like basically the backwards what Fernando showed. Like there's the char from int expression where you put like an ASCII number from the ASCII character list, and then you generate like a symbol or something or any character that is actually matching that number, right? In the ASCII list. And then with this one, you can do like char to int, transform the letter A into an integer, to into the ASCII table, into the ASCII number table, right? So I would go char to int and put my field in here, like the alphabet field, right? And then I want to stop as soon as it hits Z, that number hits Z, then I want to stop. And how do I do that? I would do like char to int, and then my letter A, right, which is my initialization expression, plus 25 because I want the 26 letters of the alphabet, right? So that would be my expression, my condition expression, because that's where I want to tell the tool to stop creating generating rows, right? So that would be my condition expression. I'll hit OK here. And then my loop expression, how would I do? Like, how do I tell the Alteryx to go from A to B to B to C? Same thing. So I need to add numbers to that ASCII table, right? And what you need to do here is basically you I'm gonna grab the short-string alphabet expression here, right? I want to add one because every row I want to go. If I go from A to B in the ASCII table, if you check the ASCII table, if you Google it, the ASCII table, you're gonna see the sequence of those numbers, right? And after A, of course, it comes B in the ASCII table, and the number after that, the number in the ASCII table after that is plus one, and then plus one and plus one until it hits Z, right? So I would do that. The loop expression would be that. But I also want to make sure I wanna show the letter, right? So I have to do char from int again. So I have to get the number that I added one, for example, in the ASCII table, and I want to match. Okay, this number in the ASCII table, whatever, 63, it represents letter B, right? Or whatever. So that's what the loop expression would look like. So let me run this. If I got everything correct. Oh, oops, I missed something. That always happens. In okay, I forgot to change the. You have to change because it's the alphabet, so it's a string, not a number. So if I run this now, I should get what I want, which is basically the sequence of the alphabet. So first row A, B, Z, C, D, E, F, G. Then it goes until Z, the last row, the 26th row, right? Because we have 26 letters. So that's how it would go by generating the alphabet with the generate rows tool in Alteryx. I know it's something that probably not really practical in the day-to-day work, but who knows, right? You want something out of the box instead of like bringing a list of or maybe bringing the text input to and just typing everything. Like ABC, or whatever, you would easily do that by having this expression. If you understand that, it's easy, right? If you understand what the char to int and char for mint expressions um, represent, you would that should be an easy thing to set up. Okay, so that was my tip, Fernando.
Yeah, actually, what I think the of course, I wouldn't use that for an alphabet. That's more of it's also a silly thing for you. It's only for to show how to actually build that. One thing that I find really interesting with that example is that you can build a complex condition inside the generate rows tool, and that's one thing that for me it's really hard. For example, the one that I use the most for creating master calendars. So and it's really hard, and it's really hard for me to build those expressions using dates inside the conditional expression. But that's one thing that you did. It made no sense to me when you were using letters instead of numbers there. But that's one thing that you always, if you want to simplify or reduce the number of tools there in your workflow, it's always great for you. Instead of using the generate rows to generate numbers, you can generate the whole thing there inside one single generate rows tool. Of course, it's not going to be easy. I always, even for master calendar, I was able to do that once, and then after that I just gave up and started using numbers because it's not easy. I'm not sure, maybe I'm dumb, I'm not that smart, but that's the way I do. I use multiple tools in order to get that done. But that was a great example.
Yeah, the idea is just to change everything into numbers. So letters can be at the end of the day, everything is binary, right? So,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
so so if you change everything to numbers, you can basically create sequences of words. I'm talking about the alphabet here, but you could create sequences of words if you wanted, right? If you would play a little bit with the ASCII table, so it's I think it's a nice one to know that it's possible.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
go ahead, your third tip here.
Yeah, let me share my screen once again here. So this one is, I think it's a tip, but it's more related to the new version, the newest version of Alteryx is the one function for you to start comparing your workflows. Alteryx already had that. It was using the run command. So we were able to use command line to compare your workflows. But as of now, since it increased the amount of maybe amount of people that were using this functionality or asking for this functionality on the community, then Alteryx transformed that into a native function here. So everything happens here from the advanced options. You have an option here to compare workflows, and then it's only a matter for you to actually select the workflows you want to compare. Of course, I have this far is the ones that I have here opened. So this is a tip for you. So if you want to select that easier, you can leave that open here. So I have the first one here and the second one that I want to compare. And then I only need to click compare here. The whole idea is that I think I didn't select the correct one. Let me do that once again. Um, I think there's this one. Let me see. Yeah, is this the correct one? So the whole idea here is that I have a comparison between both workflows. As you can see, we have some color coding here. So for example, for the square that means that you don't have that tool here. So if you're using workflow versioning, for example, on an Alteryx server, and you have two developers developing at the same time and saved at the same time as well, both versions, different versions with a lot of functions that you need to include in a more updated one. So the whole idea here is that you can start, for example, seeing that you have some tools here that wasn't there. Also, you can see here you have this specific one for formulas. So for example, if you have added anything there, so additional expression here as an example, you can see that something is not the same, so you can maybe start checking what is happening there, as well as these arcs here. So you have the output arch. That means that you have more data coming from here. Maybe the metadata you have included more more variables, more columns there, as well as this input arch here. So in a way is that because since I included a spatial tool here, a centroid, that means that it's a bit different. Of course, the tool uh, doesn't know what is actually happening, but they have here, for example, a summary of what is actually different. So you can see the incoming connection doesn't really match, the configuration doesn't match. So the configuration of a browser, what is actually happening there? So if you have, for example, uh, spatial columns there. So for the browse tool, you have the map added there for you to start seeing those in a map. So that's what is happening here. So we have a whole list here for to start checking. Of course, this is the I'm not saying it's the beta version, but it's the first version of the workflow comparison. And maybe we're going to have some really great stuff coming on the next versions there. But that's it. That's my tip for workflow comparison. If you download the newest version that you have there, you will be able to start checking this specific function as well as the recommended tool for you to start using. That's something that it's new also for you to start using as of now.
So
But that's it,
Fernando,
guys.
that's on 2021.3, right? Right now.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so the most recent one. So yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do remember using that with the run command tool, but it was kind of hard because you have to basically open command line and locate your workflows, and then use a command like a diff command or something like that, where you would open Alteryx and see like the differences like that. So, but it's a lot better this way because you can see like even the logging messages, what tools are different, right? What tools don't match. So
exactly.
yeah, if you guys are working projects or something like that, or even collaborating together and see like what your team, your team member actually changed in the workflow, what kind of tools were added, or even like for your development, what did I do in my workflow? Often I really forget what I did, right, in my workflow. Like what did I add that made that work, or what did I add that make that do this different thing here. So it's good to have like different versions of your workflow saved, and then you compare them, and you're like, okay, this was the code that I added. I think it's a move that Alteryx is doing, like kind of in the way that we can um, we can use Alteryx as a code repository as well, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah, actually, we
so
have one question here. As well. I'm not gonna try say that name is Biziagiot. I think I got that wrong, right? So, but that's not a problem. Sorry about that. But yeah, you do need a license if you want to install Alteryx. Of course, you have a trial. So I think it's great for us to share that on the chat. The whole idea is that you can try Alteryx for a month, but if you are a student, actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, you can get Alteryx for the whole year. And I think you have some courses that you can attend as well if you are able to get that. Is that correct, Alice? Am I
yeah,
right?
there was the Alteryx for Good program, right, where you could apply for a license if you're a student, and they would just check your your institution that you study or that you even teach. Like I don't think you don't even need to be a student; you can be a teacher as well. And
Yeah.
then you can apply for a license there.
Yeah, I think you
Um,
have also the Alteryx Sparked. I'm actually not that sure if you're, but
Spark.
that's yeah, Alteryx Sparked. Let me
Hmm.
share that here. But I'm gonna be send that on the chat. But you can go ahead with your tip, Dallas.
Yeah. Okay. Let me move to tip number three. And on tip number three, it's actually something that can help you with if you send emails um, with Alteryx a lot. So when I started using the email tool, I thought it was really hard to just basically send the content, right? I was doing something at Alteryx, then I had to like I don't know. I was thinking of creating a table reporting table an Alteryx and just attach the body and send it data like that. But oftentimes I just want to send the attachments, right? The attachments that I'm producing here in the workflow. So in this example, I have like, for example, a transaction table, and I just want to do like a total spend by store. So aggregate by store, and then I want to see the top 5 stores, right? That had the greatest total spend. Uh, and then I want to send that that list uh, an email, right? So if I generate that just to without sending any email, I can see here the top 5 stores, and then I store that in the file in an Excel sheet. So I want to send that Excel sheet that I'm creating right here in the workflow on an email, and I don't want like to do like 2 workflows. So like I need to create the file, and then I need to reference this file in the email to right. And if I send this here to server, for example, to the gallery, there's another problem that if I'm going to reference the attachment here, I cannot reference a local file in my machine, right? So what I can do is just add an attachment, and when I generate the file here, I don't generate without any file path reference, right? And I just add the attachment here as with no file path reference as well, just the name of the file. Not instead of browsing anything, I just put the name of the file like I'm doing here, right? So I can create a different container just to send the email. Like for example, I'm gonna send you an email right now, Fernando. I'm saying like I'm attaching the list of top 5 stores by total spend along with the total visits, right? And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna reference the file that I'm creating right on the fly in the workflow. So I'm gonna actually change here. I'm sending to myself, and I'm gonna send it to you, Fernando Vizcaya, okay? And the text is just the text that I created with the report text tool. So if I do that, I can see like this works fine because what is Alteryx doing in this case? Okay, Alteryx is actually first is outputting the file, and then at the end it sends the email. The email tool is the last one to be executed in a workflow at any time. Like you can think of any process that you're doing in Alteryx, the email tool will be the last process to happen every time. It doesn't matter what you're doing in your workflow. It doesn't matter the order. It could be at the top. It could be here. It could be at any point. The email tool is the last one. So the email tool will actually wait for the file to be written in the folder. It actually uses a relative path, so it's writing the file in the same path where the workflow is, and then it's going to reference that file in the same folder as well. If I don't reference a file path, like if I don't reference a folder path or anything like that, it will just reference the file at the same folder where it is, right? So that's how it would work. I don't know. Oh, I thought I think I added an extra I here, Fernando, so I would have to run this again. But let me know if you get the email. And what Fernando would get in this case would be an attachment of this Excel file that I created with the email that I just wrote here. So that's a good strategy if you just want to send the attachments on your workflow through email. Just reference them with no folder path reference, and then reference the file name in the attachments part. Then you don't have to create all those reporting tables or anything just to populate the data in the email. Instead, you just use the attachments and just use like things like Excel files or CSV files that would be better for the user. Okay, that's my third tip. Well, have you used that a lot, Fernando? I think you're in mute, Fernando. Yeah.
So yeah, not only myself, but a lot of customer clients. Since I'm once again working at pre-sale, so a lot of customers ask how I'm gonna send that by mail dynamically, or how can I be aware if I have any problem related in my workflow So that's another thing that you can do there. So if you have any errors inside your workflow and you need to address that to someone, that's one thing that you also can do with Alteryx. And that's, I think, one of the top questions that I always get when demoing Alteryx to a new client, because that's something that they doesn't have ability to do with any other tool, and with Alteryx you can do that as easy as you have done there. So
Mhm.
that's a great tip. So I think we have only 12 more minutes. Let me go to my next one here. All right, I'm gonna be really quick here. So the whole idea is that, all right, so we have a data set here, a large one, 3 million rows, and we are using as well, let me show here before the solution actually. So the whole idea here is that you are running this without the Dmp engine. It's all strings here, and you are using actually, so the first step, one of the steps that you always use in AutoFeed to auto configure all the data types that you have inside your data set. So as you can see here, this is the amount of data that, or amount of memory that Alteryx is using to run this specific part, to load everything. It can be memory, it can be temporary files, but the whole idea that after running the auto-filled one, you can see that's a lot better. Of course, this we are using, it's all strings. One other tip here is that only use strings if needed. If you don't need to use, start using v strings, variable strings. And the whole idea, the big difference between them is that this is the space that this column actually uses in your memory. But if you start using this one, that means that it's max 12. So if you have less than that, so for first name, if you have a, a small name there, then it's going to be using only 6 or 8 characters there, and everything's variable. So that's the first tip. But one other thing that you actually can do here, since this is a blocking tool as well, so it takes a lot of time. The bigger your data set, the longer the time you take here. So the idea is that you can use the select tool right after to save the field configuration here. Let me save that here. So I can save the configuration as a yxft file. And then after that, I can just remove the autofields. I don't need that anymore. And then as you can see here, it was all went to its first configuration, its default configuration. What I can do here after, I can load that configuration once again, that file. And then as you can see, it's all configured already. And runs actually a lot faster. So one thing that you always need to be aware about the blocking tools, of course, if you run this using the Dmp engine, once again, multi-threaded, you'll see that it run a lot faster, but always you need to be aware that you can improve. The first step there is for performance improvement, always change your formats, always remove the columns that you don't need it, and then you run, of course, a lot faster. That's it. Really fast tip.
Nice, nice, nice tip. This yxft file is really important for you to save the select configuration. Imagine like you do a lot of work and that select tool kind of loses the configuration, and how would you go by getting that again? You need that file, right? So it's important to
Exactly.
have that file with you. And a lot of people didn't know like yxft. I think this even shows up in the certification exam, right? Like
Exactly.
if this is an extension, what is which one of those are Alteryx extensions, and then yxft is definitely one. So let me go to my fourth tip, which is really quick too, and it's for those who are often like, for example, I am. Sometimes I start clicking on stuff and just moving around, and I don't know I don't know how to get back, and I get confused. I got that a lot in the beginning when I was using Alteryx. For example, accidentally dragged my results tool here, and accidentally dragged my configuration tool here, and it's right here, right? So how do I go back to my original setup? You know, a lot of people get confused and they don't know how to put it back. They start clicking on everything, and I just say, cool, don't worry, it's easy. It's easier than you think. So if you actually hold the left click on your mouse, and if you hold that and you scroll it right on the arrows here, you can actually do that correctly. So in this case, the results window was at the bottom, right? And the results window, no, that's the configuration. The configuration window was on the left, right? So when you place it here, it's gonna go here. And if you go back here with the results window and you just put it in here, you know, like where this arrow down is, you can get it back here and you get what you had before, right? So just think of that. If you're like, if you end up missing one of those, if one of those like get you know get floating in somewhere here in your workflow, or for some reason results window ends up here, which I saw. It's not really uncommon to see like the results window here, like and the person is like, oh my god, how do I get back? Then just drag that back to where it was, and it should work fine, right? With the arrows there. So just keep calm and drag everything back to its place. Okay, it's an easy tip, but I think it's useful because when I really struggled with that at the beginning.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great tip. It always happens actually when we are on a working session, working with someone that it's actually learning Alteryx and like, using for the first time. It's that it usually does that for the first time. You can't see a window, you can see anything that's happening, and it's a great suggestions for you to get things once again at the right place, right? But I think we have 5 minutes. Let me get my tip in two, so you you will be able to show yours. But the whole idea here is that, all right, so you have, for example, a workflow. So this is a workflow. Let me open that for you.
So
This one.
your input there is a workflow, right? I see
Yeah,
Y X and
my input is a
okay.
workflow. So what's the idea here? So let's say that you have a complex workflow here with a lot of inputs, a lot of outputs, a lot of things going on here. It takes a lot of time for you to update that. So you need to update that in a monthly basis with a lot of not so regular data sets. So it's not the same name. It's not on the same folder. It actually takes a lot of time because it's all in a share folder, so it can be a nightmare. I'm saying that because I was in a project like that before. That's why I thought about this specific trick. So the whole idea here is that, okay, so of course, if you have tables or your files in a different folder, you can use the workflow dependencies for that, or you can start using or leveraging, for example, the find and replace to start replacing everything. But the whole idea, so I think, let me hide this one. I forgot the shortcut for that. So the whole idea here is that you can open your file here as data. And if you didn't know that, so Alteryx workflows are XML files, and then you can start using, for example, a lookup table here to change everything. So you can change the file name. So as you can see here, I'm changing everything related to the file names, as well as the folder where we are actually getting the data from, and saving also to YXMD. So everything that you want to actually change or replace it in a workflow, and it's a batch, and you don't want to do that one by one manually, then you can start thinking about this process. So the whole idea is that you need to, the only thing that you need to be aware, open as a CSV, open with no delimiters, be always aware of that. And the one other thing is that always be aware that maybe you have the field length here as well, right? So always keep in mind of that. And other than that, that's basically it. You can run your workflow. It's reading your workflow and creating one here, datasets dash new, and that's the second one that I have here. And as you can see here, so it's all in a different place. Of course, maybe I don't have in the right place there, but that's basically it. So you can use Alteryx for updating the XML file that actually the workflow is. So that's basically it. I think 2 or 3 minutes. Go ahead.
That's useful if you, especially for connections. If you want to change like connections from the dev to prod or something like that, database connections, then you can do that. Just modify the XML workflow and do that. Really nice tip, Fernando. Yeah, my last one was a really easy one. I think we can do it in 2 minutes. I just want to show you, like, if you don't know, there's an easy way to split the letters of a word into rows. So I usually, if I want to do that, what I usually do is I use the regex tool. Like you have the text to columns tool, but you have to specify a delimiter, right? With the regex tool, the thing is dynamic because it actually uses the regex language to basically tell you what you want to split things on or you want to replace. Anyway, but you might want to use a tokenize method here and then use split to rows. And then what you would do, like you would put, like, for example, if I want to split every character that is inside a word into a row, I can use the dot here in regex. The dot is basically any character, right? The dot represents any character. So that includes word characters, numbers, and even symbols or things like that. So if I do that, I can see like my name, which was one row, now it's split into like 6 rows, right? And that's useful because, for example, if you want to filter out specific letters or specific characters out of a thing, and then what you can do to get it back, use the summarize tool, where you basically use string and concatenate, and then you don't use any separator here because it asks you to prompt the separator, and then you're gonna have your word back to what it was, right? But it is good to manipulate strings, use the regex tokenize expression, and then split to rows is always good because you don't have to specify the number of things you want to split on. And then you can use the summarize tool to concatenate it back. So I could do a lot of things if I wanted to modify my name or the words that were in here. I could do a lot of things inside this field and then concatenate back with the summarize tool, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's my tip. Right at the end of our show. I hope you guys enjoyed. Fernando, I think was pretty good. We did some nice tricks here, and well, we will see you again in our fireside chat next month again with Andrew next time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Hopefully.
yeah, and you have any suggestions for us to start showing here, or of course, if you want us to show any other tips, tips and tricks, of course, we have a lot of them there. So if you that's something that you really enjoy, so feel free to let us know, and then we can keep doing something like this, right? So
yeah, definitely. Just put in the chat. Just send a message to Data Meaning to our channels. We're in there, and we would love to see your tips here and your suggestions because we want to spread the word, right, Fernando?
yeah, guys. Thanks for watching. So here are my ace cap.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Have a wonderful week.